Welcome back to your movie recaps. After Furiosa's revenge on Dementus in the first part of the movie, you can watch it here. Furiosa wasn't satisfied, and now it's Joe's turn. Furiosa fled with Joe's wives in a large truck, escaping from Joe because neither of them wanted to live with him. On the other side, we meet a soldier named Max. Max lived alone in the desert, preferring solitude to avoid interaction with people. He would face anyone who opposed him alone. One day, while driving his car, Max was injured by Joe and his men. Max tried to flee, but they were numerous. Eventually, they managed to stop and overturn his car. Max gets out of the car, still alive, and Joe's gang captures him. They write his name, shave his head, and tattoo a nerve symbol on his body. This tattoo serves as proof that Max is now the property of Joe's gang, who captured him to extract the blood they needed. We then see Joe, the leader of the gang and ruler of City Dell, stepping out to address the people. He announces that he will form a team to go to the gas city to obtain fuel and to the ammo city to gather ammunition. The leader of this mission will be Empress Furiosa, who will lead Joe's men on this mission. Joe is in his fortress, controlling large quantities of water, which he had cut off from the people. Now he opens the water supply to allow people to gather it, and they rush to get as much as they can. However, after a few minutes, Joe shuts off the water again, leading to conflicts and fighting among the people. After that, Furiosa's team is instructed to head toward the gas city and ammo city. However, during their journey, Furiosa suddenly changes course and takes another path without informing anyone. The team is forced to follow her without understanding where they're going. One of them asks her where they are going, but she refuses to answer. At Joe's fortress, someone spots Furiosa through binoculars and notices that she has deviated from their path and is heading toward another gang. Joe begins to suspect something strange and goes to check on his wives, but finds them missing. He realizes that Furiosa took them with her. Joe becomes angry and sends his men to search for and bring his wives back. Among his men is Nax, who uses Max as his personal blood donor. Despite being injured, he decides to join the chase because he is one of Joe's most loyal men. All the members of Joe's gang mobilize, with Nax tying Max to the front of his car. Max's blood is transported via a hose into the car, while Joe continues with them. The gang launches explosives into the sky as they request support from the leader of Gas City and Ammo City. Furiosa's team sees the smoke and asks her about it, but Furiosa refuses to say anything. On the other side of the desert, a gang named Bazard sees Furiosa's team and decides to attack them. They begin to close the distance, and upon spotting them, Furiosa asks her team what they should do. Furiosa tells them to drive fast and escape, preparing for a fight. However, one of Furiosa's cars falls into a trap set by the Bazard gang. The gang from Bazard was attacking the remaining members of Furiosa's gang, who were riding motorbikes and attempting to cut the tires of Furiosa's cars. However, Furiosa's men retaliated by hitting the cars with multiple spears, destroying them. At the same time, they managed to escape from the other vehicles and were temporarily safe. However, Joe's team was very close to them, along with other vehicles from Bazard's gang, leading to a major confrontation between the two groups. During this battle, Joe's team was caught off guard, and communication was lost. Nax had managed to reach his vehicle, but he found himself heading toward a sandstorm. One of Furiosa's team members realized that Nax was being betrayed by some of their own, so they attacked him to throw him off the vehicle. Nax tried to shoot Furiosa, but was blocked by Furiosa's truck. An intense struggle ensued, which resulted in the explosion of Nax's vehicle. Nax ordered one of his men to free himself and tie himself to the back of the truck, but upon freeing himself, Max managed to attack his opponent and knock him down. Max tried to reach his vehicle, but Nax closed the windows to keep safe as the sandstorm intensified. Meanwhile, Furiosa was watching her friends die amidst the storm. She attempted to escape toward another direction, but Nax was observing her closely. Nax was ready to sacrifice himself in order to kill Furiosa, so he set his car on fire with gasoline. Max noticed what he was doing and broke the car window, attempting to stop him. During this, Furiosa rammed the truck, completely destroying it. Max came to, finding himself unharmed. He removed the hose connected to his blood supply, though he was still shackled with chains to Nax. Max attempted to free himself by firing at his arm, but the gun was malfunctioning. In the distance, Max spotted Furiosa's truck and carried Nax toward it. Joe's wife and a group of others with a water hose were also nearby. Max asked for water, and one of them handed him the hose to drink. While struggling with the chains, they pulled Max from his restraint. At that moment, Furiosa was trying to get a gun from the truck, but Nax regained his senses and jumped on her. Max seized the opportunity and took the gun. A second fight with Furiosa ensued. Eventually, Max managed to overpower Furiosa and bring her down to the ground. Joe's team was approaching the area, and Nax was very happy. He said to Max, "Joe will give us a big reward because we captured them alive." It seemed that Max wasn't interested in the situation at all. Nax quickly passed by to cut the chain, and as soon as he freed himself, he struck Nax and took the truck alone, accelerating before Joe's men could catch up to him. However, the truck contained a special code that only Furiosa knew, causing the screen to stop suddenly and preventing the truck from moving. Furiosa asked Max to let her drive the truck to help everyone escape. Max had no other choice but to agree, allowing her to take control of the truck, while he kept his gun pointed at the men to stay cautious. Furiosa drove the truck toward the Green Valley, a place suitable for living and farming. However, Joe's men were pursuing them, and they were forced to flee under fire. During the attack, Joe's men struck and threw them off the truck completely. Meanwhile, Furiosa sent a message to her gang members, stating that she would leave the fuel tank in the desert. She also asked them to throw rocks behind them to block the path for Joe's men. The gang members knew the truck's code, and Furiosa successfully reached the Joarg area, where she disembarked from the truck and loudly declared, "I'll leave the fuel tank in the desert. I ask the gang to throw rocks behind us to close the path for Joe." As Jorg's gang appeared on their motorbikes, negotiations broke down. Furiosa quickly drove the truck at high speed to escape the gunfire. Rocks were dropped to block the path for Joe's men and prevent them from entering the area. The battle escalated as Jorg's gang threw explosives at the front of the truck, igniting fires. Meanwhile, Joe was driving his massive vehicle with his best men, successfully navigating through the rocky terrain. Nax reached Joe and informed him that he had been in the truck with Furiosa. Joe ordered Nax to ride with him and gave his men an order. "When we reach the other side, detonate the rocks." The massive vehicle successfully passed through the rocky terrain, while Jorg's gang continued attacking the truck with their motorbikes. They launched grenades at it, further intensifying the flames in the truck's front. Furiosa tried to control the situation by pumping large amounts of sand through the front of the truck's mesh to extinguish the fire. While trying to maintain control, Max began shooting at Jorg's gang members, managing to kill several of them. Despite this, Jorg's gang refused to surrender and continued their relentless assault. A man was lighting a stick of dynamite to throw it into the driver's cabin, but Furiosa fired a flare into his face. He fell under the truck and died, while the dynamite exploded in the last vehicle carrying the fuel tank. After eliminating the Jorg gang, Joe arrived with his weapon aimed at Furiosa, ready to shoot. However, Joe's wife opened the door to defend Furiosa. Taking advantage of the distraction, Furiosa killed one of Joe's men. At the same time, Joe handed a pistol to Nax to infiltrate the truck and kill Furiosa. Nax began the operation, but struggled because the chain he held was tangled and he was about to fall. Joe lost hope in him and sped his car up, jumping over a rock to the front of the group. One of Joe's men, named Rictus, fired a spear at the tire of Max's car, dragging him and causing him pain. Meanwhile, Joe's favorite wife, known as Enhard, was exiting the vehicle, but was caught by the chain and injured as she tried to stabilize herself. As she tried to return to the truck, her foot slipped by the door and she was unable to climb back into the vehicle. Joe drove at high speed in an attempt to save her, but the vehicle overturned. His wife died, and Joe was devastated because she was pregnant. Joe's men, riding their motorbikes, were approaching, and Joe continued driving at high speed. The engine of the truck driven by Furiosa overheated due to heat exhaustion, so they stopped the truck so Furiosa could repair it. By coincidence, they saw Joe's men on their motorbikes. Furiosa took them out to secure the path. They continued their journey, but one of Joe's wives returned to the back of the truck to monitor the situation. She found Max there, upset and sad. She asked him what was wrong, and he told her that Joe would never forgive him because he let Joe down, and because the man who used to transfer his blood was now driving the truck. She tried to calm him down and sat beside him, urging him not to tell anyone about his presence. Max continued driving until nighttime. Eventually, they got stuck in the mud and became exhausted. They realized they had reached a muddy swamp. Max and his allies decided to exploit this opportunity by planting explosives in the mud to detonate them on Joe's convoy. He changed the wheel and continued their journey. Suddenly, one of Joe's convoy vehicles exploded due to the bombs, and the rest of the convoy got stuck because of the mud. The leader of the ammunition city was with them and grew frustrated because he had not yet participated in any battle with his men, as his tank structure had gotten stuck in the mud. On the other side, Max's vehicle was stuck in the mud again, and they had to find a solution before their enemies arrived. At that moment, the leader of Ammunition City approached them, and Max decided to aim at him, firing 2 shots that missed. Furiosa took the final shot, which accurately hit the leader's vehicle's headlight, blinding him in the process. Nax wanted to help Yus and Max, and from his hiding spot, he said he had a plan. They could tie the truck to a tree, and the tree would help pull it out of the mud. Meanwhile, the leader of Ammunition City began firing on them in a frenzied attack without concern for his own men. Nax successfully executed the plan, and the truck was pulled from the mud with the help of the tree. However, the next problem was the overheating of the engine. Max decided to stop to face the leader of Ammunition City, while the rest of the team cooled the engine. Max advanced alone, and during this time, Furiosa saw explosions in the darkness. She wasn't sure if Max was alive or dead. She fired into the darkness, but discovered it was no Max, who had killed the leader of Ammunition City and his men. He had taken the vehicle's wheel and supplies with him. The truck moved out of the muddy swamps, passing through a desolate area that was home to strange creatures and dead trees. By the following morning, they reached the Green Valley, but found nothing except a woman standing on a tower asking for help. Max was suspicious that this could be a trap. Furiosa stepped out and spoke loudly, saying she had lived in the Green Valley when she was younger, but had been kidnapped with her mother a long time ago. Upon hearing this, the woman on the tower called on her companions, all of whom were women. Furiosa shared her story about her experiences with her mother and told them that she had traveled all this way to return to the Green Valley. However, the other women informed her that the Green Valley had become a mud swamp and was no longer habitable. Furiosa proposed they head east to find arable land suitable for farming and build a new life. She suggested to Max that he could join them, but Max refused, insisting on continuing his journey alone. The women traveled by motorcycle, and Max watched them from afar until they disappeared. Suddenly, Max had a dangerous idea. He quickly rode after them and stopped them, saying that traveling through the desert was very dangerous, and there were no guarantees they would find anything. Therefore, the best option was to return to the city of Sesti, which belonged to Joe's group. Max's plan was to return along the same path they came from in order to lure Joe and his men into the muddy swamps. There, they would face Joe's soldiers and defeat them, then take control of the city of Sesti, which they knew the location of. Although the plan was very dangerous, everyone admired the idea and agreed to it. They all returned to the truck and headed toward the location of Joe and his men after they had exited the swamps. They were standing around, hesitant and feeling shame from the chase, while Joe was watching his truck, Furiosa, moving toward the city dell. His men began chasing it. During the pursuit, one of Joe's cars raced ahead and caught up to the truck. A firefight ensued, with one of Joe's soldiers siphoning gasoline to increase speed. Another soldier climbed onto the truck and performed the same risky maneuver, which could potentially harm the vehicle's engine. Furiosa tried to prevent Joe's men from catching up. Eventually, the women in Furiosa group opened fire and killed the drivers of nearby vehicles. At that moment, Furiosa's first truck's engine failed, while the second one was on the verge of exploding. The truck slowed, and Max went to repair the first engine. As he worked on the fuel tank, Joe's soldiers approached and launched several spears into the rear of the truck, putting Max in great danger. Max risked his life and fought back, removing the spears. Joe's vehicles closed in, and the women kept firing at them. Max had finished clearing the spears and was returning to his seat, but Joe's men had managed to climb onto the truck and began fighting him. Another soldier threw a smoke bomb into the driver's cabin, while another began strangling Furiosa with a rope. Furiosa fought back, but was injured, managing to kill anyone that came close. Max was still fighting and trying to save his troops. However, an arrow struck his hand and he fell unconscious. Joe's troops had many soldiers, and one of them captured a woman from Joe's men. The battle raged on until Max regained consciousness and fought back in the last moments. One of Joe's soldiers was about to kill Max with a chainsaw, but Furiosa saved him at the last moment. Another soldier was chasing the truck, avoiding Furiosa and Furiosa with difficulty as she carried Max with her iron hands. Meanwhile, Joe's wife killed the soldier who attacked them. Max managed to repair the first engine and got out of it to shoot at the car driving beside them. Max hit a soldier from the vehicle and knocked him out, then kicked the leader of Gastown with his foot, weakening him. Max regained control and returned to his truck. While Joe passed by Max to try and kill him, Max used the leader of Gastown as a shield to withstand the fire. Joe's wife told him that Yusa had suffered a serious injury. At that moment, Max jumped from the truck before it exploded in Joe's convoy. Before reaching Furiosa's truck, Max encountered a soldier who tried to throw him onto the road, but Max managed to escape skillfully. Max jumped into another of Joe's cars. The car driven by Joe advanced ahead of Furiosa's truck, while Joe tried to disable Furiosa's truck. Furiosa let Max take over driving and headed toward Joe's car. Joe was about to kill her, but Max arrived just in time and hit Rictus on the head. Rictus tried to attack Max with one hand while Furiosa fought with the soldier. At that moment, one of the women distracted Rictus, allowing Max to use a pipe to hit Rictus on the head, rendering him unconscious. Max collided with Joe's car from behind, knocking down the Dementus fighting with Furiosa. Furiosa came through the window and hit Joe with an iron rod in his mask, causing it to explode as he could not live without it. With that, Furiosa's and Max's plans succeeded in large part. Joe's wives exited the truck with their companions to join Max. At that moment, Rictus regained consciousness and grabbed Furiosa's truck engine to throw it at Joe's car. However, Max sacrificed himself to save everyone by overturning his truck, blocking the road for Joe's remaining convoy. Although the mission was successful, not everything went well. Furiosa was in critical condition, having lost much blood. Max decided to give her a blood transfusion to save her. They eventually reached the city of City Dell. Max showed Joe's body to the guards, and when everyone confirmed their victory over the tyrannical ruler, they celebrated. They opened the water for the people to use as they pleased. Furiosa was appointed as the new wise leader, and Max walked among the people before leaving the city to continue his journey and adventures. Please, if you like my content, support me with a like and subscribe to the channel. Have a nice day.